Hi, everybody, and welcome to week number 3. That is right, week number 3 of your 9407 class, which is Intellectual Freedom and Its Discontents. As always, I am your professor, Dr. J.S.K. Austin, and today what we're going to have is a very brief state of the course update, and then after we do that very brief state of the course update, we will come back and we will talk a little bit about APA. Now, for those of you, I'm going to talk about two very common APA mistakes. For those of you who have had me in classes before, you've heard this already probably, so there's no need for you to sit there and watch it again. And if you have me in reference, which I know Andrea does, I can't remember if anybody else does, but I know Andrea has me in both classes. If you have me in both classes, I am talking about APA in the reference class this week as well. And so you don't necessarily need to watch both, okay? So that is that. Let's go ahead and get into the state of the course update, and then we will come back and talk about some APA. So first of all, for the state of the course update, for one thing, again, I said this last week, and I'm going to say it again. Discussion boards are looking very, very good. You all seem to agree for the most part. But even when you're not agreeing, it does seem like you are disagreeing in a civil manner. I like that. Again, there's a lot of agreement, so I am noticing the few outlier people, for lack of better words, that we have, people who have opinions that don't necessarily match the mainstream opinions. And, and I think that's good. And I think I enjoy having you all, and that's why I needed a larger class, is because I didn't want that 25 to 30 student class where everybody was saying and believing and thinking the same thing. We got to switch it up a little bit, y'all. And so I'm glad to have some extra students in, because, that does increase the likelihood that we have some outlier opinions going on. Now, I will also say that when I was a library school student, and that was back in 2006, so we're talking about a long time ago. I finished library school in 2008. I was there from 2006 to 2008, nearly 20 years ago. It does not feel like that at all. But when I was in library school, yeah, I had the same opinions as a lot of you do. So I do want to say that I do think that, I can understand where you all are coming from. I was definitely, for one thing, a free speech absolutist. I came into libraries from newspaper reporting. So, I was, when you work in a lot of people who work in newspapers, they are free speech absolutists. They just think that everything should be available, and everything should be made for consumption, and everything should be, all of the viewpoints should be out there, and then the better viewpoints will win out. I'm no longer somebody who believes that. Maybe I'm just old and a fuddy-duddy at this point, but I'm not somebody that believes that now. However, again, I was where you all are now, and I was thinking along the same lines you all are thinking now. I was thinking those when I was in library school. And I will say that even though I see a lot of librarians kind of change their minds on their outlooks of these things as they go through their career, I also see a lot of librarians who still stay free speech absolutists. So it's not necessarily wrong to believe that. And if you are a free speech absolutist, there's nothing wrong with that. All right, so let's get into the state of the course update. Beyond that, so we talked about the discussion board. You got a discussion board this week, and we'll be talking about some of these First Amendment exemptions. We will be talking about, the Miller test, and we'll be talking about obscenity, and we will be talking about child pornography a little bit. Unfortunately, child pornography is something that you have to be up on in libraries. And I am going to, I'm going to share a quick story here about something that one of my colleagues experienced when it came to child pornography. So, actually, I'm going to talk a little bit about child pornography. And this is not a fun topic. I do understand if you want to fast forward through the child pornography talk, but I am going to just maybe spend about 2 minutes just saying a few things about that. First of all, yes, be vigilant. People do go to the library and try to look at child pornography, even with other people watching, or other people being able to see what they're doing. Okay. And I think maybe the reason for that, some people don't have other means, but then I think some people do just realize that if they're looking at it on library computers, then, people understand that libraries don't track and keep your data. So once you log off on that computer, your history is erased They're not going to tell, librarians generally aren't going to tell the cops when you were or were not on the computer and things like that. But something else I want to share is, it's important to know what child pornography actually is, and I talked a little bit about that in one of the previous videos. So I don't really want to go too deep into that again because I already talked about it once. But I am going to say, I can't remember what library this was at, and this was well over 10 years ago. So this isn't something recent. But there was a library at one point where a librarian caught a patron just looking at pictures of naked children online and called the cops, and the cops came in, and the cops arrested this person that was looking at this stuff. And I'm sure this person, I'm sorry if somebody feels that I'm judgmental when I say this, but I am sure that this person is still probably some form of pervert. I have no desire to go online and look at naked children. But at the same time, what happened was this person got arrested and got charged. And then the DA had to throw out the charges because what he was looking at was not child pornography. So I am going to say again, when you look pictures of naked children, they're not necessarily child pornography. Generally, in order for something to count as child pornography, it does have to depict something that is clearly of a sexual nature. So, sex acts, whether with another individual or with an object or with their own self, those things would be considered child pornography. But if you just have a picture of a kid that's naked standing in the yard or something, that would generally not reach the level of child pornography. Now, having said that, I don't know if it's the case. I'm not a lawyer, and the lawyers in the class, if they want to, they can chime in on that and clarify this. I do think that states are able to pass laws that also prevent naked children from just being displayed online, but I don't think that those would be child pornography laws. I think they would have to be called something else. But I think states do have the ability to pass laws outlawing putting images of naked children online. However, again, the DA had to drop those charges, and that means that the cops didn't know either. Like, the cops charged this person with child pornography, and to the cops, that was it. And it wasn't until the district attorney came in that got corrected. Okay. That's all I really want to say about that, but child pornography issues abound in libraries, and as disturbing as that is, and as much as we hate it, it's something that some of you are going to confront at some point in your library careers, and I apologize in advance that you have to go through that, because it's probably something that some of you, especially depending on your past experiences, that's something that may take a very emotional toll on you. And so for that, I apologize in advance. And we'll also be talking about fighting words and truth threats. And so these the materials that we have going on this week. These are things that should help you kind of make sense of what these things are and what they are not. And hopefully you can kind of get a sense of the reasoning as to why these things are not protected by the First Amendment. Okay. And then I had that announcement last week where I put up something, a short newspaper article or a short news article about the obscenity law in Virginia and them trying to count, what was that? Genderqueer, sorry. And thank you for that. Yes, genderqueer. Genderqueer, they tried to deem it obscene in the state of Virginia or the Commonwealth of Virginia. They tried to deem it obscene, and it just, the laws that they were using to try to do that were unconstitutional. They violated both the Virginia Constitution and the United States Constitution, because genderqueer definitely has literary value. It just does. So because it has literary value, it is not obscene. Okay. So yeah, that is that for the for what we're discussing this week. And then we'll get into the some of the other types of unprotected speech. We'll get into those next week, but we break those up into 2 units, And the other thing that I want to mention is there will be no check-in video tomorrow. Tomorrow. There will be no check-in video next week, and the reason why there's no check-in video next week is because we are going to have our first sync session next week, specifically on Wednesday, September the 14th, from 7 to 8:30 p.m. Central Time. That would mean that we start at 8 p.m. On the East Coast. In the Mountain Range, we start at 6 p.m., and on the Pacific Coast, we start at 5 p.m. But yeah, we are going to have our sync session. It's going to be on library neutrality. I'm actually trying to establish a list of questions for our panel now and send those to our panels so that they'll be all ready to go next week. Okay, so we are looking at those things, and that is the state of the course update. I don't think there's anything else that needs to be said right now. So at this time, if you already feel that you're comfortable with APA, you can go ahead and stop the video now. For those of you who have not had me before and might not be aware of these two common APA mistakes, I would encourage you to go ahead and stay on so that you can see my explanation of these things. All right, let's pause. All right, so let's first look at the first common mistake is that people very, very often actually write out first and middle names. And by the way, what I'm talking about with APA is specifically for reference lists. So we're not talking about in-text citations now. These two common problems are common mistakes that come with the reference list, okay? So the first thing that I want to talk about is, and by the way, I can't even remember now whether or not I've said this already, but there are two assignments that I'm going to be checking for APA accuracy, and those are going to be your banned book report, and for those of you who have to do the final paper, if you're not participating in the debate, you have to do the final paper, and the final paper probably, the final paper will require that you use APA accurately, okay? So be ready to do that. And yeah, there's still an assignment that I have not actually created yet. I still haven't figured out exactly what I want to do with that assignment. But that assignment will likely not be a written assignment because I think you all have already do a lot of writing, so I don't want to make you all do any more writing. So I'm going to try to find an assignment that is not just a paper, something that has more practical application, and that's why I've been really, really thinking on that, okay? But yes, for your papers that require you to do APA and require you to do it right first, the first mistake that I always see students make is this one. Author names need to be initialized for the first and middle initial for the given names. So even if you, like, let's say you had my full name, Jason Kelly Austin. When you are writing your reference list, even if you know my first and middle name, you don't actually write those out. You just put Austin, comma, J, period, K, period. And so that's what you have right here. Jane Marie Smith is not written as Smith, comma, Jane Marie. It's written like this. And this is how your reference list needs to look. If you don't do this properly, I will take off. Okay? So that is the first thing, and that one's a little easier to figure out, but the second one gets a lot of students, and so I am definitely going to spend a little more time on this one. So also, in addition to the initials, APA has like a weird capitalization scheme. So, and we're going to actually look at some rules related to this, but when referring to the titles of books, chapters, articles, reports, or web pages, or other sources, capitalize only the first letter of the first word of the title, and the first word of the subtitle, and the first word after a colon or a dash in the title, and proper nouns. Now, that is for things that are not periodicals. When we're talking about periodicals, particularly academic journals, but also magazines and newspapers, things can be subject to change a little bit there. So, again, and we're going to take a look at some examples of this, but when we do talk about academic journals, then the capitalization gets even more weird, because what goes on in academic journals and these periodicals and stuff like that is that you use that weird capitalization for the article title only, not for the journal title. Again, you use that weird capitalization only for the article title, not the journal title. Let's go ahead and look at this in action. Let's look at books first, actually. Okay, so when we have books, and web pages are going to be the same way, and you can use the Purdue OWL for any of this. So I'm not requiring you all to buy a style guide. There's no need for you to do that. I think that the Purdue OWL will suffice for what you're trying to do in this class. But for the Purdue OWL, basic format of books, and we see an example here. As you can see, title of work, title is capitalized, work is not. Capital for the subtitle after the colon, capital is capitalized, but letter also subtitle. They are not, okay? And here's this in action, Alexander the Great, A Life and Legend. This is the book title here. You can tell because the whole thing is italicized. So this is your title, Alexander the Great, and then your subtitle, A Life and Legend. Alexander the Great actually is the proper noun, but even in the proper noun, you're not going to capitalize the article. So you don't capitalize the. But you capitalize Alexander and Great because that is the proper noun. But then, as you can see for the subtitle, A Life and Legend. Life is lowercase, legend is lowercase, okay? And we can scroll down and see a few other examples of this. When we have this book, A New Companion from Mallory, A is capitalized, Mallory is capitalized, new and companion are lowercase. So keep that in mind. I'm actually going to put in a little excerpt from the style guide in with this announcement, so you can kind of refer to that in that announcement. That excerpt talks about capitalization as well. And you can scroll through and see some other examples. I'm not going to prolong the video for this though, but I am going to show you this, articles and periodicals, just so you can get a sense of what's going on there. Again, that is your basic format, but take a look at this, y'all. So, as I said, the journal title or the periodical title is not capitalized. For instance, this periodical is entitled Purdue Journal of Service Learning and International Engagement. Purdue Journal, Service Learning, International Engagement, all of that is capitalized like it would be in normal English. And the reason for that is because, again, the journal title is capitalized like you normally would in standard prose. However, when you look at the article title, look at what's going on here. Data is capitalized, but experience is not. Design is not. Now, after you get past the colon, negotiating, capitalized. Community-oriented, not. Digital, not. Research, not. Service learning, not. Tell me exactly what it was that I was doing that was so bad. Understanding the needs and expectations of working class students in writing centers. And you see the same thing kind of going on here. Tell, capitalized. Of course, I. But then you go back to this colon and then the subtitle starts there. Understanding is the only word that's capitalized there. But then once you get to Writing Center Journal, I didn't even know there was a such thing as Writing Center Journal. But once you get to that bad boy, yes, you can see that the entire publication title is actually capitalized. So that is that in a nutshell. Again, I am going to put, and you can look at the Purdue OWL. Just try to basically copy what you see in the Purdue OWL as far as formatting as well as you possibly can. Librarians do need to be able to learn citation styles, and in some places, librarians even help with citation building. We haven't done that in a lot of the places I've worked, but there are libraries where that is the job of the librarian. So, just keep all of that in mind. And we can look at web pages real quick. So electronic sources, as you can see with the web pages, we have something similar going on here. That is actually the author. We have a corporate author there, the American Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals. But then when we look at the web page title, Justice Served, case closed for over 40 dogfighting victims, justice is capitalized, but served is lowercase. Case is capitalized, all these other words, lowercase. So that's what it is. That's what you're looking at, y'all. Again, I am going to have an excerpt on capitalization included with this announcement, so you'll have that to refer to. But yeah, again, I will be checking for proper APA use in the book report and the final paper, okay? If you have APA errors in your discussion board posts, I'm not counting off of that because the discussions they're a little more informal. Okay, so don't worry about getting APA just right for your discussion board posts, but definitely for your formal book report and for your final paper, yes, you are going to have to make sure that you get your APA right, and I will be counting off if the APA is incorrect. So that is it pretty much. We are a little bit over 20 minutes. So this is a great place to stop, and I do hope you sped this up. So I am Dr. Jace, and having no opinions on library neutrality could be a disgrace. We'll see. Maybe you feel that way, maybe you don't, but we are going to dive into that topic next week, and I am excited about that, and I hope you will enjoy our sync session with some very, very good speakers next week. All right, have a good week. I look forward to reading your discussion boards, and if you need me, you can email me anyplace, anytime, anytown, austinj@missouri.edu. I am out. Later.